this morning. Dale's up next, Stevensville, Maryland, line for independence. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi. I was hoping to get through on Memorial Day. I'd like to speak about the all-volunteer Army and encourage people to write their congressmen and senators and encourage them to have an honest discussion about whether democracy should have an all-volunteer Army. A volunteer Army is fine for first responders, but it sort of reminds me of the days when you could buy your way out of the draft or out of conscription for three reasons. One, it's undemocratic. Two, when you're only have a service made out of less than wealthy people, you don't have the same response from Congress. I think if we had a regular draft army that, unlike Vietnam, had no exceptions other than for health, we wouldn't have been spending 2 years up-arming Humvees in Iraq and Afghanistan, because there would have been an outrage that had effect, not just an outrage. And thirdly, when you're using when you have an all-volunteer army, you're using reserves for the second wave like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, so you really don't have any reserves. You're using your reserves for regular replacements. And I think that when we went into Iraq, we should have started a draft so we had some real reserves, so we could have changed force strength as necessary instead of being stuck where we're at. I'll let you respond.
Dale, I want to ask you, if there is mandatory service, how long should it be? Who should there be mandatory service for?
Mandatory service should be for, well, it doesn't have to be mandatory in peacetime, but I'd like, from my personal view, I'd like to see any time they deploy, say, more than 5,000 or 10,000 troops into a new conflict, they should immediately initiate a draft and start training their replacements, just in case things don't go well. Shock and awe didn't go very well at all, did it?
Should it be men and women?
Men and women, yes. And the other thing I didn't mention, I don't think there's no reason for us to be paying people like Halliburton to serve meals to these guys. A Spec 4 or an E1, E2 can sure prepare food cheaper than a private corporation. This privatizing the military is also a waste of taxpayers' money and undemocratic. For combat, I'm kind of I prefer men in combat, but that depends on what combat you're talking about. If you're talking about light infantry, to me that should be all men, just because I want somebody big and strong to carry me off the battlefield. But if you're talking about a fighter pilot, a helicopter pilot, if women are willing to do that, fine. But all these jobs that are being filled by private contractors, or most of the jobs, probably could be filled by some very petite people if it had to be.
That's Dale in Stevensville, Maryland. His thoughts in Open Phones this morning. We want to hear yours. Democrats 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, Independents 202-748-8002 will be in Open